Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So here are all of our wonderful ingredients for our chocolate martini. I have already prepped a nice flat dish of chocolate syrup. And then I'm going to add all of my ingredients into this shaker. We have here Bailey's, some vodka, a fancy martini glass, some chocolate liqueur, chocolate syrup to make it fancy, and some yummy chocolate bar and ice. So we're going to start off with our Bailey's, and we're going to do 4 ounces. All the way to the top. And 4 ounces of chocolate liqueur. Wow, looks like chocolate milk. And then it says 4 ounces of vodka. One, 2. Okay, now I'm going to decorate my glass with some chocolate syrup. I'm gonna swirl it around in there and make it really pretty.
That does look really pretty.
Yeah. And I'm gonna dip the rim in my bowl. And now I'm gonna add my ice to the shaker and shake this for about 20 seconds till it gets everything nice and cool. Oh, and then I just take this part off. Pour it into my martini glass. And then I'm going to finish it off with some nice shaved chocolate bar. A little messy, but I think this is going to be the best part. Beautiful. All right, artists, here we go. Cheers. Woo!
All right, it has to be pretty good, right?
It is. It's definitely better than the Christmas butter. But I did drink all that Christmas butter, so it was good. Holidays. Okay. Now over here to our art section, I have everything prepared. These are all of our ingredients for painting. I'm going to plug in here and introduce all of our tools. Here's our handy dandy kit. I don't know if you guys have got this, but this is the one that we're using. And inside we have everything that we're going to need. our brushes, this beautiful palette, and all of our paints. Red, black, white. We're not going to use the green today, but we're definitely going to use the blue and the yellow. Now, things that are not in the bag that we're going to need is a nice glass of water. Preferably, this one is not for drinking, it's for painting. And then also I like to use a rag or a paper towel. And I like to have my image close at hand so I can use it as a reference to know what's going to go where. This is our beautiful wave of love. Okay. Sip to start. And we're going to start right away with putting our paints onto our palette. So here we have blue, dark blue, light blue, pink. So we're going to use a lot of white. So here I'm going to go ahead and put the white next to the red. And then I'm also going to do another white. I'm going to leave a space. And then I'm going to do another white next to the blue. And then yellow and black kind of by themselves. And I like to leave the center part of the palette open for mixing. So I've dispersed my colors evenly around the palette, leaving some open spaces just in case I need those for mixing as well. So it's not a big deal how you really arrange them. It's a personal preference. It doesn't have to be exactly the way that I'm doing it. This is just the way that I like to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and use my biggest brush, my favorite brush. And I always like to start with a little dip of water and my rag close. And I want to go into, we're going to start here in our painting all the way at the horizon line. And that would be 2/3 down the canvas. So I'm going to go into my red and make a nice pink, but not too light. Going to stay fairly red. And I'm going to try and draw a nice straight line, as straight as I can, across that canvas. So from there, we're going to try and work quick because we want this to blend. So we always want to start from the farthest part of the painting, the farthest in perspective. So that's almost where the sun is. That's that very, very tiny, tiny off in the distance horizon line. So here we have our reddish pink. We're going to go in there and sweep that all the way across the canvas. And if you can see here, I can point this down. What I'm doing here, I use this nice section. I'm using these two, a white and the red, and I'm just using this little space by them. And it doesn't have to be so perfect because we're going to paint this big wave in front of it. We want to keep it wet and then going a little lighter, adding white in this nice empty space here, taking a lot of paint. And placing it right on there and blending it. There we go. And then rinse your brush off and go into the yellow. Now, we don't really want to mix too much into the pink. We kind of want to stay in our own area for the yellow, just bringing it down a little bit because we don't want to make too much orange. Slight blend. I think that looks nice. And then again into your white. I want a nice clean white. And you can see now we're starting to head into the very, very light pink here. So we're doing all of that sky, that nice, gorgeous horizon, that sunset. Or if you're here in Florida, it's the sunrise. Doesn't have to be so straight and horizontal. You can put some clouds in there if you want. And now I'm going to clean my brush and go into the blue. I think I'm going to add a little white. That seems a little dark for a sky color. So I am taking some white and some blue on my brush and I'm just mixing it there in that center part of the palette because that's what works for me. And with my darkest part of the blue, I'm going to go right to the top. And then from there, I am going to add white. Moving quickly because you want everything to still be able to blend with that lower color. All right, so my pink here has dried. So I'd like to open it back up. I can either add water, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and go into the pink. And just make a nice second coat to blend right up into that blue and make it a purple. Yeah, if you want, you can, add some texture. But we don't have to get carried away because we're not going to see so much of the background. All right, now looking at my top sky and comparing it to the image we have here, I'd like to just, hi Annette, I see you. All right, I'm just gonna add a nice bit of dark blue to the top corners because I really like the way that this pops over here in the corner on this image. So I'm just gonna go ahead and paint some of that in and pull it down, blending it. Okay, and I'm happy with the way that that looks. So I am going to move on. So the next step here is I would like to paint the next furthest thing. Oh, actually, let's add our sun before we forget. That's the focal point, right? The very best part. Maybe I can add that later, so it's right in the middle. Maybe I'll just add it now. All right, so I'm gonna go into my white and my yellow together because this yellow here is very saturated. And I'm just gonna twist my brush and try and make a nice even circle. A nice sun in the distance. Can't forget about the sun. Okay, so the next move is going to be adding in the bottom part. So the darkest part, there's a nice horizon line where the water meets the sky, and that's what I'm going to get into now. Straight lines are so tricky. But the eye really is very good at pulling out symmetry and straight horizontal and vertical lines. So the horizon line is kind of important, but here it's broken up by the wave. But the eye can always tell if the horizon line isn't straight. Sometimes I like to use a piece of tape. Okay, so on the left side, I'm going to use this nice dark blue in here, and I am going to start carving out my painting here. So the majority of this is going to be a nice dark blue. And And then all these waves are coming up here. And then for the top of the wave, it almost grazes the top of the painting, right in the middle. So from there, I'm kind of going to outline where I want my wave to go, so I know what's going to happen and where things should be placed. And it's not quite all the way to the left where the wave is crashing. It doesn't hit the left side of the canvas. And since the color of my brush is a nice dark blue, I don't want to go so heavy. I can either clean my brush off just to define where things are going to be placed. It's not a permanent gesture. So my heart kind of circles our sun. So we're going to take our time to do that heart shape. So I just put a little gestures so you can see where I want to put my heart. I placed a few dots here and there. Started to get the wave shape. And then it's going to come down beyond the horizon line about an inch or so, so it'll touch there. All right, now I like to work from darkest to lightest. How's it going out there? Yes, cheers. All right, so we want to get the back section done. That nice background, far, far in the distance, all that water from the horizon coming all the way up. So that left side gets blue. You can be very free. The ocean is a very, very forgiving thing to paint. It has a lot of movement, a lot of brush strokes. You can go in there with your black, your purple, touch your black and your red. Get nice mixtures of color going on there. So you can get a variation of tone and texture. Getting good gesture, I sometimes like to hold my brush like this. And that helps get more momentum from the elbow and from the shoulder. Now, after we've done all that blue on the left, I'd like to go into the red, that nice red in the water, the reflection of the sunset or sunrise. so it wades back and forth. My brush is a little muddy from the blue. To get a nice red, you have to have a nice clean brush. So I think I'm going to go back into the pink. So I'm going to make the red and the pink together. And I'm just going to pull that red from the sky and bring it down into the floor. And we're going to block this color out, and then we can detail it after. So this is all reflection. So it doesn't quite go all the way to the bottom middle of the canvas. It's about an inch or two above. So I'm not going to go too low with my red, but it does sweep up into the arch of the wave. So I'm going to do some nice strokes, pulling it towards the edge and getting larger as I get closer to the edge. So farther back, you want your strokes to be smaller, and then as you stroke out, they can get larger, and that will give you a sense of perspective. So the best part about painting is always taking a step back to see what you're doing and where you're going to go. So I can see here in my painting that it's getting very muddy down here. So I'm going to wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and clean it up and add some white and some yellow to get that reflection of the sun really beaming off the water. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to start laying in this blue to sweep the wave up and around. And that's going to really help fill in a lot of my image and help me get a nice first layer. And then from there, we can start adding all of our little waves to the water. I guess I don't know how to do that. Oh well. All right, keeping my blue just straight from the jar and laying in that nice dark blue. I really like the seafoam color in here. I think I might go ahead and add some green to my palette and see maybe if I can get that nice seafoam green color. Just a drop. Just a drop is a lot. So good thing I left some empty circles in my palette because I need an empty one to try and get this color. I'm not sure that I'll be able to get it with this blue. Maybe I'll just have to add yellow. Not the color I was hoping for. All right, moving on. Finishing that top of the wave. Kind of getting a little bit more aggressive in this empty space here. Adding some of that green. Back to the blue. Here it's nice and thick part of the wave. All right, now getting into my white and kind of blending this piece around. Always looking at your painting and then looking at your image. Painting, image, and that will really help you get a sense of where you are and where you need to be. So I'm just blending on the canvas here some of these bubbles using a stipple stroke almost like an X pattern. Going back and forth into my white and then into my blue. Carving out this tip of the wave. So from your blue to your green to your white, those are the three colors we're using. Even though it's kind of a darker, not ultramarine blue, it'll still work. So once you layer your wave with the colors that you want, get it nice and wet, you can start to carve out a motion with your brush and start to feel the movement of the wave, pulling that color through all the way around. How's everybody doing? Did everybody leave? What also helps me is I like to blur my eyes while I'm looking at what I'm painting so I can get an overall view of what's going on. And then also then look at my image to see if the colors are in the right spot. So I'm not focusing on the detail, I'm mostly focusing on the overall image of and color scheme of where I happen to be painting at that moment. So right now I'm working on the edge of this wave and I really want it to make it seem believable. Water is tricky because it reflects, but then it also is see-through. So it has two dynamics, which can sometimes get confusing. But that's why water's so fun to paint. So for the top of the heart, for the bottom of the top of the wave, where it makes the top of the heart, there's a lot of color there where it seems like the sky is coming through and then it's also being reflected from the bottom of the wave. So what I would suggest doing is painting in your wave first and then bringing in that sky on top after as a highlight. But you can also leave some of that sky for reference. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and get the black over here in the very corner and make it pretty dark. And then mix that with my blue because I don't want it to be too dark. And then you can pull it through in other spots. To help it blend throughout the painting. Pull it up the wave, do some little dabs, some gestures. But we don't want too much black. Just kind of keeping it there in that corner. And I also see a little bit up here, pulls the eye to the top of the painting. And we'll give it nice contrast because all that is going to get white. All right. Now we can say bye to the black. That was all we really needed it for. And then back to the blue. Dragging it into the black, blending it. And doing the same, kind of gesturally pulling it in and making some nice details. Now that we've based out where everything is going to go, we can start detailing with our colors from darkest to lightest. So I'm just going to go ahead and place some of this blue on top of the red. Giving some dimension to that water and those waves that are about to zip up. And the sky is a good indicator and the background of where things are going to go on the wave. So I had my horizon line there, and now I'm going to cover it with this blue. I'm going to get smaller, and then I'm going to get larger as I progressively get closer and closer to the foreground. Always step back and see the progress. Do I like what I'm doing? Should I stop? Should I use a different color? Ultimately, I would like to have two different blues. If you do have another blue, there's usually two blues. There's the cyan and then the ultramarine blue. There's a cool blue and a warm blue. That would be best for this painting. And then we could get that really nice teal aqua color. All right, now I want to get a little bit lighter, still sticking in my blue. A little blue, a little green, a little white. Just giving some definition to these areas. Oh, it's really starting to come together now. How's everybody else doing? So I found with waves, it's really nice if you take your brush and add pressure and do like a little squiggly and then relieve the pressure and then come to like a nice soft point, and that helps really drag through and make the wave smoother, because waves are like a big thick mass of water, and on the edge it gets a little wispy, like a shark fin almost. So here I see I need some light white, but white is going to be my last color, so I'm not going to get too involved in that. But to make a mental note, I know that I need to bring the white in over here. So I just have a few more areas to finesse with this light blue. But I don't have any more of that paint color left, so I have to mix some more, unfortunately. Okay. Now, from here, now that I've placed all of my blue, I think I'm able to move on to a light pink. Cleaning my brush well. And then going into that pink and the white. And if I take a step back and I look, I can see I need some finesse here in this area. Just look at your painting and see where it needs the most detail. This drink is really good, by the way. All right, so my light pink, I want to work from the bottom up. So, pulling it through to the edges. Grazing that background water with the sun, with the skylight. And always really small, delicate strokes in the background. The closer you get to the front, to the foreground, you can have bigger, longer, wider strokes. So you want to start very small and delicate, and then you can get more aggressive and wider and longer as you move to the front of your painting. So those little detailed strokes are really going to help define all those tiny little waves and what's going on with the water. Always following your image. Unless you don't like the image, then you can follow your heart. Okay, now I'm going to bring this pink through the edge of that thick part of the wave. Not too much, kind of a TP triangle zigzag motion. And wherever you feel it needs a little spot of color. And then here, I'm seeing some pink here. You don't want to cover it completely. Now we're just detailing. So we're just doing like fine lines here and there to pull the sky into the water and suggest reflection. So as we scoop around, I'm going to need to add more white. It gets much lighter. It's coming along well. We have about a half hour left. All right, my pink is a little dark, so I'm just gonna add some white. And now, as I look at this painting, I see it's just very, very subtle, the pink. As I get to the top, and this is almost like a highlight because the light from the sky is pink. So in this top area, I just want to do very slight suggestions, like on the top of the wave, like little bubbles, slight squiggly lines, I would call them. Repetitive. And I'm happy with that. I think that really pulls a lot of that color through. The dangerous part about having your drink by your brush water. Very dangerous. Okay, up next on the color list is orange. So to make orange, we need red and yellow, equal parts. And that is a very, very vibrant orange. So from here, I'm gonna mix this on the canvas, dipping from yellow to white to where I want it to be. So I'm gonna lay it out, and then from there, I'll add what I need, but always starting at the horizon, really small and delicate, and then working your way forward with a back and forth motion, getting wider and longer. This is like a fire red almost. Up the wave. It's like a dance.
Is it possible to bring the painting closer to us so we can see what you're doing? We can't, that's it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for. All right, so from the horizon, doing very, very light. And then pulling it forward, but always getting larger as you get closer to the front and foreground of your painting. So that nice fire orange is also going to go on the other side. Blue and orange are opposites. So when you put them next to each other, they really, really pop over here. Now you can dance that through the painting, kind of staying in the areas where you previously put the pink, just to kind of exaggerate that color. Like stays with like. Bordering that blue. I'm going to just a hint up here because this is the breaking point of the wave. Where it no longer sees the sun. Now from that orange, I'd like to add a little yellow and bump it up. Just like we did the sky, we did a gradation, we're going to do the water a gradation. So we went from a nice deep red orange, and now we're going to go very close to where we were before. Just lay in that area where the sun hits the water. I'm going to need some white too because that's a little I need it more opaque. So here and there, you don't want to overpaint now because those waves, the light is just hitting the top of those waves. So you really want to kind of dab your brush along, and that will really give it a sense of movement. Along that water. And here I can see that you can see that light is dancing. It's not a straight line. It varies. It's here and there. So we want to round that wave out. And then do the same, just follow. Lightly highlighting some of the other areas that we've already touched upon that have that nice pink and orange in it. Not too much, this is just the gem of a highlight. This is the icing. The sprinkles, you don't want too many sprinkles. Now as I'm really feeling like I want to deviate from the image, or I want to make it my own, I want to put little highlights in different spots, maybe bring out different sections of the painting that don't show it on the image. And that's the fun part. If you want to make it your own, if you want to copy it exact, that's the fun part about art. You can always make it just how you want it. And sometimes it's never how you want it. And it's still beautiful. All right, now I want to clean my brush off, evaluate. I want to put some nice, really clean yellow up in here to reflect all up in here. So, but I want really nice, clean yellow. I don't want orangey yellow. So I want to go into my white, and I have no more space on my palette, so I'm going to use any clean section I can find. I'm desperate. And then right into my yellow, like a nice, clean, light lemon yellow. And if I've dried my brush off enough, I can get a nice thick color. It won't be too translucent. And I just want to hit this area here at the top of the wave to carve out my heart. And really, I need more white. Make it feel like that sun is sparkling off of this wave here. Almost similarly, doing what we did down here, staying next to the pink and the red. Up here, we want to stay next to the pink. I also want to exaggerate and accentuate this right here. Really want to feel this yellow come through. And then I can also bring it back down. Follow those sections I was hitting earlier. Pulling it through a little farther on the painting to make it seem like there's some other waves that are touching the light. Drawing that imaginary line from the sun to the black, because it makes that loop of light. Okay, now for the finishing touches. I'd like to clean my brush and just get it nice and dry and clean and go into my white. And actually, I might even use a different brush for this. I'm going to work in between these two brushes. So smaller one, and then the biggest, a nice chiseled brush. And we're going to follow what we were doing with the yellow and just, again, going through and hitting even smaller areas, but the same. This is just a very touch of light grazing. And that really concentrates the light. And here you can be free, whatever you feel like needs a highlight, but you also want to use it sparingly because it's the jewel. It's really where the eye goes, to that nice white highlight. And you want to use all of that really concentrated white right up here at the top of the heart, because this is where the splash happens. So you want to push your brush down and kind of like let go, almost like a stipple, thick and then thin, like a fishtail. And you can do that in other areas. following the pink and the yellow, and then stippling all through here. And then being very generous with your paint, you can come up to the top here and really get in here. You can even go into your blue or your green. Blend some of that color in there. I'm gonna get a nice round dot. If it's not working, change a brush. I'm gonna get a nice contrast up here in the corner because there's lots of blue. So you wanna have, you wanna be able to differentiate and get those bubbles. So I like to get a nice blend. So it's not just all white, just picking up anything that I can find on my palette that's in those blue tones. Making my way around that wave. Putting a nice base of bubbles. I could even go into the wave. And then back to the white, a nice big dollop of thick white. I don't have to clean my brush. I can just go directly. Nice thick blobs of water. So see here, I went back into the color. So when I have that pure white, it really stands out. So I almost never want to have pure white, only at the highest, shiniest part of the diamond. It's like that one sparkle of the diamond. That's your whitest white. It's the gem. You want to use that for where you want the eye to go when you're looking at the painting. I want it to go here. I want it to have some spots along here, but mostly, so I'll sparingly disperse the white along this area so the eye will travel with the color. Okay, and now here's where I'm going to change my brush for a second and get that white in there. So I'm using this brush with the white. And this is going to tell the viewer that this is on top. Just making it fun, adding some dots here and there. We feel like that sea spray would be coming off of that wave. You can even go into your wave. All right, now is where we're going to use this white to get the eye to travel around the wave. All right, how's everybody doing? Are we about feeling good about our paintings and what we have laid down? Any questions?